I noticed the sticky note on my car as soon as I stepped into the parking lot. It was neon yellow, stuck right in the center of my windshield. 3 simple words, written in thin, jagged letters. I see you. I glanced around, scanning the near-empty lot. A few cars sat parked in the dim glow of the streetlights, but I didn't see anyone nearby. My apartment complex was quiet, the only sound being the distant hum of traffic from the highway. I pulled the note off, heart thudding. Probably some stupid prank, I told myself. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I moved into this apartment complex about 6 months ago. It's nothing fancy. Just a mid-tier place outside of the city. Close enough to work, but far enough that rent wasn't insane. I'm 28, work in IT, and keep to myself. I'm not the type to make enemies. I barely even talk to my neighbors. The parking lot is usually empty by the time I get home. I work late hours, so I'm one of the last people pulling in. That night was no different. The lights in most of the apartments were dark, and the only movement I saw was a cat slinking across the sidewalk. The air was thick with humidity, making my shirt cling to my back. I rubbed my eyes, exhaustion from the long day weighing down on me. But something about the silence of the lot unsettled me. It felt heavier than usual, as if something unseen lingered just out of sight. I figured the note was some kind of mistake, maybe some teenager messing around, maybe even meant for someone else's car. Either way, I crumpled it up and tossed it in the glove compartment. Out of sight, out of mind. But the next morning there was another one. Same neon yellow, same messy handwriting. I see you. This time, I felt a cold prickle at the back of my neck. My car was parked right in front of my unit. Whoever left this had to come up close, right up to my windshield, just feet from my front door. I looked around again. The parking lot was busier in the daylight, but no one seemed out of place. People walking their dogs, heading to work, the usual morning routine. No one was staring at me. But as I turned toward my apartment, I noticed something strange. A slight indentation in the grass by my window, like someone had been standing there. I swallowed hard. Had someone been watching me from there? I shook it off, trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was someone at my job messing with me? A dumb joke? But how would they know where I lived? I told myself I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew something was off. The notes kept coming. Every night, a new one. I see you. I tried parking in different spots. The notes still appeared. I stopped staying late at work, hoping that coming home earlier would give me a clue about who was doing this. It didn't. One night, I decided to set up my phone on my dashboard, propped up just enough to catch anyone approaching my car. I went inside, locked my door, and barely slept. Every creak in the apartment, every gust of wind outside sent my pulse racing. The thought of someone lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting, it made my skin crawl. The next morning there was no note. I exhaled in relief. Maybe whoever it was had gotten bored. Maybe I had scared them off. But when I checked my phone, my stomach dropped. The footage showed someone approaching my car just after 3 a.m. They wore a dark hoodie, moving slowly, almost deliberately. Their movements were calculated, as if savoring the moment. But here's the part that made my skin crawl. Just before placing the note on my windshield, they turned to face the camera. The hood obscured most of their face, but I could make out a smile. A wide, deliberate grin, like they knew I'd be watching. They stood there for several long seconds, unmoving, letting the grin linger before finally turning away. It felt like a message, not just a warning, but a taunt. Then they stepped back into the darkness, disappearing from the frame as if they had never been there. I didn't go to work that day. I barely moved from my apartment, just sat with my curtains drawn, trying to figure out what to do. I kept replaying the footage, pausing it at the exact moment their face turned toward the camera. That grin, that slow, eerie smile. It wasn't just someone messing with me. It was someone enjoying this, and I had no idea what they wanted next. That night, I called a friend over. I didn't want to be alone. When he arrived, I explained everything. He laughed it off at first, said it was probably just some weirdo messing with me. But then we checked my car together. There was a note, but this time, it was different. Instead of the usual "I see you," it had something else written on it. "Why don't you check your closet?" I went cold. My friend tried to laugh it off again, but it was forced. "It's gotta be a joke, man," he said. "Right?" I didn't answer. My apartment was small. There weren't many places to hide. But suddenly, every shadow, every corner, felt sinister. I grabbed a baseball bat from beside my bed and forced myself to check. The closet door was shut, same as always. My hands shook as I reached for the handle. I yanked it open. Nothing. Just my clothes, some old boxes, the usual. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. But then, my friend frowned. He pointed at something on the closet wall. Scratched into the drywall, just above eye level, were 3 familiar words: "I see you." I moved out a week later. I still don't know who it was. The police weren't much help. They took the footage, took some notes, but nothing ever came of it. No fingerprints, no leads. Whoever it was, they never left another note after I left. But that didn't mean I felt safe. The first few nights in my new place, I barely slept. Every creak in the walls, every flicker of light outside sent my heart racing. I found myself checking the locks 3-4 times before I could even sit down. Sometimes, I swore I heard footsteps outside my window, but when I looked, there was nothing. Maybe it was paranoia, maybe not. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that last note, the one telling me to check my closet, the scratches on the wall. Had they been inside my apartment before? Had they been inside while I was sleeping? How long had they been watching me? And worse, were they still watching someone else now?